Guys, so today we have a very special treat for you. We are making a GTN series video. We're going to be using the RealSimGear GTN 750 to record that on. So let's get at it. Okay guys, so here we are. We just turned on our GPS system or our avionics. So I'm just gonna go ahead and very briefly take you through some of the functions and how to use some of these things on the GTN 750. If you happen to have the RealSimGear GTN 750 like I have, I will give you guys some links in the description on how to actually set it up. I will not cover the setup portion of the RealSimGear GTN 750 or the RealityXP. I'm just gonna focus on how to work it. But yeah, so we just go ahead and are gonna continue all of these things until we get to the home page. And then I'm gonna start with the outside like I always do, and I'm gonna explain each button and then I move into what's inside the screen. So first of all, here's your volume button. Now what's cool about this button is almost every button has two functions, right? You can either move it around, or you can press them, or then there's also the press and hold. So just so I can show you an example, here's your home button. The home button, if you press it, it's going to get you here, but if you press and hold, it's going to take you to your map, right? Now I'm going to press it again, it's going to take me back to my GPS. If I press and hold, this is your radio, right? Right here. If I press and hold, it's going to switch my COM 1 and my COM 2. Very easy, right? Very cool. Well, starting with here, like I said, this is the volume one, and then it's also going to give me my emergency information. So if I press and hold, it's going to put the emergency frequency on, and it's also going to put me on 77. It's going to squawk 7700. Now, we already know what this is. We already kind of touched briefly on the home button. It just switches you from any other screen that you're in. If you press it, it will take you right back to your home screen. This is the direct to button, right? And here you'll be able to put, like, if you want to fly directly to a waypoint, an airport, whatsoever. We'll dig more into it in a little bit. And then like I said, here is your frequency buttons, right? So the outer knob, the little knob, is going to switch your, like you can see here, from 85 to 87 and so on. And then your inner knob is going to switch the 120s, 119s, and so on, right? Now that we've figured that all out, it's very simple because most of this on the GTN 750 is touchscreen, right? And if you've used a GNS, you're gonna see some of the same functions, but it's just quicker, it looks better, it uses more colors. It gives you, and also of course gives you a couple more functions on here. So now the screen, going in the screen is divided into sections, right? And the top section you see here, that is your audio panel or your audio, right? So from here you can switch your frequencies, and you can either, by tapping on the standby one, you can either type it in and enter, and then you can see it there, or like I said, you can just move that here. And you don't have to open it to be able to move it around. You can just do it there, right? Now, if I wanted to switch that standby to the active one, all I gotta do is tap on the active and it will switch it for me. Or whenever I type in something, I can just go ahead and hit the transfer button, and it's gonna set it and activate it for me, switching the other one to standby. This is something pretty cool, is that it also gives you the identifier right under it. Goes the same for the comms, and it's also the same for the nav. Well, that's about it. And you can also do the find function, but I'm gonna dig in a little bit later into how to find frequencies a little bit easier, and pretty nicer. So then on your audio panel, right, this is where you go to switch from COM 1 to COM 2, nav 1, so on and so forth. You can even do things that are really not displayed on the that do not happen on the flight simulator, but that will be to cabin speaker and things like that, right? But cool things for you to play with, or like even the intercom, right? Now here we have the same thing. It's just whether you want to switch from mic 1, mic 2, and or com 1, com 2, right? Your squawk code, very useful, especially if you're flying in like online networks like VATSIM. But here you can just type in your transponder code, and same thing, you can either just enter it and keep it on standby, or you can switch it to altitude reporting, and then just hit enter, and that's it. Then there's the one that so say that we were squawking IFR per VATSIM, right? And then very easily I can just hit the VFR and it's going to switch it to the 1200. Going to nav, same thing how COM works. It's the same thing, right? You can just enter the frequency here and then just hit the transfer and it will set it and also activate it for you. Okay, now moving on to the bottom, the middle section of the screen, then you have also more sections. The first row are going to be your situation awareness, right? It includes the map, traffic, terrain, and weather. Weather being disabled for the flight simulator. If we click on maps, it gives you just a regular GPS map, right? If we go back to traffic, it will give you any traffic around you, terrain, and then weather, like I said, is disabled. Now, the cool thing about map is, of course, if there's any traffic, it's going to display it for you, and I'm going to dig more into that. But terrain, same thing, you can just enable it all to be on here. Then the second section is going to be your flight planning, and it makes sense, right? You have your charts, flight plan, procedures, and nearest. And then the last row, it is going to be your information row, right? Waypoint information, utility, system, so on and so forth. Down here, you're gonna have your messages, nothing big deal, and that's about it. Okay, so the first thing you always want to do whenever you first turn on your GPS is you want to check some things before you move on to anything. It should be engraved in your mind or in your brain. Whenever you turn it on and you hit the continue button, whenever you get to this page, the next thing is you want to go to system, you want to go to GPS status, you want to go to SPAS, and you want to make sure that WAAS is turned on. This is going to help you with any issues you might have with the ILS. You always just want to make sure that everything here is turned on. So now that we have that, we press the home button. It's going to bring me right back. Now I'm going to go one at a time, but on the maps here, I'll tell you what. I'm going to go ahead. First thing I want to go ahead and show you guys is how to set up a flight plan. And once we have the flight plan set up, then I'll go ahead and go over all the things, right? So of course, makes sense to just hit the flight plan button. Now it's gonna recognize the airport that we're in this case is Lakefront. Now I'm just gonna set up a simple one. I'm just going to tap on top of that airport and I'm gonna hit insert after. And I'm just gonna put Harvey, right? Which is nearby. Okay, now from Harvey, I can either click it again or I can just very easily add Waypoint, and I'm just gonna do Houston. Oops, did that wrong. There we go. So now we have our first plan, right? Our first flight plan, right? So now we have Lakefront, Harvey, and then to Hobby Airport in Houston. Now I'm gonna go ahead and go back and I'm gonna show you what the map looks like with that flight plan set, right? So we already see our magenta line. I'm gonna zoom out. All right, actually I'm gonna go ahead and also turn off terrain so we can see a little bit more of the graphics of the map. And we see how it's gonna take us to Harvey and then straight, it's a pretty long flight plan, right? To Houston. Okay, so now that we have that flight plan set up, I'm gonna go ahead and take you over a little bit of the map itself. So first of all, we down here have the back button, and you're gonna see that anytime that you just wanna go back to the page before. But remember, if you want to go to the main home page, then you just press that button. You have the menu, and every page almost has a different type of menu, right? But here you'll be able to configure some things. So example, if you want to have terrain on or off, you can turn that on and off, right? And this is all personal preference, but charts, the same thing. If you want to see charts, if you want to see traffic displayed on there. And then this right here is map detail. It's going to, as you bring this down, it's going to take off things from your map. So where we can go from, let me zoom out so you can see the difference. All right, so we can go from seeing all of that to basically just the flight plan, right? Let me bring that back up for you. Okay, but then also you have the option of clicking on map setup, and then you'll be able to actually change a few of the things of how you want to see them at what zoom level, whatnot, right? Now, another thing I want to go ahead and go over this really quick is you guys see this right here, right? The desired track, and then distance, and then you see how I have this little button here, right? These are informationals, and then this is just buttons. I can click on that, it will take me to the flight plan. Well, I can change that to be another piece of information. To do that, I'm just going to come here to menu, change user fields, and you see how it's going to ask me which one do I want to change. So I'm going to tap on that, and I'm going to go from, it can either be data, functions, or page. Page is going to take you to them. Function is going to do actual things, but then data is going to show information. So now we switch it to distance, and now you see how well, it's the same thing, but you can just customize it just however you want to. And then of course bring back to default, where now it's showing the ground speed. Now you guys see me play around with the zoom level, so I don't have to talk much about that. But then there's the CDI, which very easily is going to switch your GPS to V-lock, and then you have your OBS set here. Now with the CDI, you're not going to play with that very much. This GPS is set up to right before it hitting the final approach fix. It's going to switch it for you automatically. But say that it didn't, then all you have to do is just tap on it. I will say that if it's not doing it, it's because you have probably something configured wrong, whether you have that auto function disabled, or you don't have your navigation, your nav frequencies on, or you just not set on the right altitude, whatever. But should you need to set it up manually, you can just tap on that. OBS is also very easy and it's very helpful. So say that you want to go ahead and set up a line that is going to intercept something, right? So I don't know, in the case of Houston Airport, right? We're gonna go to flight plan, we're gonna tap on Houston, waypoint info, and I'm gonna go back to this in a little bit later. But let's just say that we know we're gonna land on runway 220, right? As we're getting closer to it, right? As we get closer to it, right? We know that we're gonna land on runway 17. So let's just set up a 170 course. Then if I zoom out, you see my flight plan is grayed out. Go back, but now you see the magenta line and then the white line crossing Houston Airport, and that is me telling the GPS system to put a line in that heading that I input. Now my GPS can track that, and it's gonna get me in the best. It's gonna get me to it in the best possible way. Now I will say you want to make sure you set this up as you get closer. In my case, I just put Houston as an example. It is a very useful function if you're flying and you know which runway you're gonna land, and you just want to set that up so you have this line running across. You see how far out it goes, right? So it's almost like a runway line in my case, and how I set it up. And you can very easily turn that off. And now you see how that went back. I'm gonna go back to my flight plan. I'm gonna hit Harvey and activate leg. Press and hold, and you see now how things are just back to normal. Now I will show you something, guys, that I've been messing on here with. There's a difference between activate leg and then direct to, right? So this is the direct to button. If I just hit this and then I just say direct to Harvey, then you're gonna see how it went from here, from the point of the airport, and now meets where the airplane is at. So the direct to, it's gonna go from, it's gonna change it straight from where we at, from our point to where we wanna go. The activate leg is just gonna keep the course as you had it, right? So I can go from direct to, or I can go back to flight plan and say activate leg. And there you go, you see how the magenta line went back to Lakefront Airport. This is useful because whenever you fly, especially in VATSIM or something, then you know ATC might tell you fly direct to, say, fly direct to Harvey, or and then you can just do direct to, and it will take you straight into it. Or say that you fly and you had to deviate a little bit because of traffic, weather, terrain, or something, but then eventually you just want to follow the line that you planned. You don't want to change anything, right? So you just hit the activate leg, and the airplane is gonna, if you're flying with autopilot, it's just gonna take you back to that line and fly exactly how you originally filed the flight plan instead of making any kind of corrections. So that will be the difference between the direct to and the activate leg. Now something else is with this direct to is I can just tap on it. I can tap right here. And let's just say that I want to fly by MSY, by New Orleans Airport, right? So I'm gonna type in the code, and now I hit activate, and you see where it changed, and now it's just going to go from Lakefront to MSY. If I go back to flight plan, it still is on here, but all I gotta do is now, if I want to go back to flying, I can either say, well, let me go ahead and go back to flying to Harvey, or I can just say from where I am, I just want to go ahead and activate leg. And let me show you the difference. So now the direct to New Orleans is no longer there, but the magenta line, and I'm gonna turn this off again. The magenta line is now going from Harvey to Houston. Now I'm gonna show you again, direct to. If I hit that, you see the difference. Now the magenta is going straight from where we are to that point that we wanna go to, in this case is Houston. And it's gonna ignore the flight plan that we file. And that is pretty much the basics of the map screen. Now your TCAS is going to be shown right here, and this is going to show any traffic around you. And what's cool is also going to show your altimeter right at the bottom. In this case, it's 3029. Very simple. And you can always zoom in, zoom out as well. Okay, and then there is the terrain, where it's just going to show any kind of, say, mountains, antennas, towers, anything that might have to deviate your flight plan. And then see, if you click on the menu, see the difference, how you can change it however you want to. Then we already know weather is disabled. We're gonna go to charts, and charts is pretty cool because it's gonna put, instead of me having to pull up charts, print out charts or something, it's just gonna put them on the GPS for me. And I can just very easily zoom in, move this thing around however I want to. But then I can switch it, also view all the charts, the departures if we had any. Very, very easy, right, all from here. I can also hit the, well, first I can hit the full, so I can see more of the chart and less of the menu. But then I also have this airport info, and this is very useful, especially if you're flying online. Because again, all you need is going to be right in this GPS. The idea of the GTN and the Garmin system is that to have you look for less and just do more within. So here it's just gonna give you very basic information about elevation, time zone, things like that. Then we're gonna hit the preview, and we can see a preview of the airport. We can switch to procedures, see them here. We can scroll down as we need to. Same thing for runways. And then see on runways, I can very easily just tap on here and switch it. And you see how it takes me to it, and more information. Now going here to frequency, and this is probably one of my favorite features about this thing, is because I can here very easily just look up for a frequency, and if I tap it, you're gonna see how I switch it to my standby. Now it even gets better. Then I can just tap on top of the name of the frequency. So in this case, ground says more information. I can tap on it, and then it will tell me any kind of information. Say, let me switch to a departure. So sometimes it'll tell you what altitude is that they're controlling, what side, and things like that. So if you have, like, say, an airport that, like Miami or Orlando, that have different types of approach controllers and things, it would actually tell you which approach controller is for what area. So very easily you can just switch them around. You don't have to be looking for shards. Like I said, you can just tap on here and it will switch it to your standby, and then you can just tap on it, it'll switch it to your active. So easy. I'm gonna go ahead and hit the back button, and as we're done playing with the shards, we already kind of played with flight plan a little bit, but digging a little bit more into it, see if there's anything on here that I want to tell you. I'm gonna go ahead and activate a leg for Harvey, so we have that. But if we tap on it, you see there's more things into this menu, into these options. So we have the activate leg that you see me play with, the insert before and after. And what that is, if you want to insert a waypoint before or after, then you can just do that instead of having to add the waypoint. Now, if you do hit add waypoint, it's going to add it to the bottom. So if you wanted to fly between Harvey and Houston, if you hit add waypoint, it's going to go after Houston. So in this case, you want to hit insert after, or you can just hit Houston. You can just hit Houston and insert before. Okay, so clicking back on Harvey, then there's the load airways. If there's any, we can click on that and you see them all in there. Very nice and easy to type in. I'm gonna go back. Then there is the load SAR, which is your search and rescue. We will not be messing with that very much. And then waypoint info. And it would just give you information about whether that's the waypoint or the airport like we saw a minute ago, or whatnot. And then of course there's the remove portion. There we go. Now the difference is sometimes you're gonna see these load procedures. Those are for airports, whether you setting up a departure or arrival or whatnot. I'm gonna go back. Procedures, you can either do it through your flight plan, or you can just tap on here, and then you can see how if we had any departure that would show up here, but we don't have any. And then you can set the departure, the runway, so on and so forth, right? And then you can also see charts. And this is something about the GTN and the Garmin system. There's more than one way to get to things, right? There's 3 to 4 ways to get to things. So you can either get through your procedures through here, or you can get to them through your flight plan, or there's even one more way, which will be going back to your map. Something I didn't show you is you can kind of move this around, and that will be to actually tap on it. And if you tap on it, see waypoint info, gets you to it, procedures. So there's more than one way to get to things, and that's the idea. Departure, and then you, like I said, you also have your arrivals. You can also set your approach. Say for like Houston, we say we're gonna land, I don't know, ILS 13, and you see how it sets it all for you. And again, here's your charts. Load approach. And now you can see how it's set in there for you. Nearest, it's just gonna show you anything that is around you, right? So any airports, you can tap on it. You know, any interceptions, your VORs, your airspaces, and all of that. Then going back to waypoint info, then here is, you know, pretty much the same thing we've already seen, pretty much, right? Oh, and let me go do this. Create waypoint. If something is missing on your GPS, in this case, it's just stuck on that longitude, but you can actually, on your coordinates, I'm sorry, but you can change this however you want to and put it wherever you want to. And then you can just change the name of it. And then it's gonna save on here, right? It's gonna save on your GPS for any time that you wanna use it later. And you can use this for a couple of reasons. Whether, say that if something is missing on your GPS, right? A waypoint that it is that it's new and your Garmin has not updated, or if you just want to say that there's an airport in your simulator that is not showing on here. Whatever you want to do is you can set this where you can add it to your flight plan later. Now, utilities are going to be, it's going to be a very fun to play with system or page. You can set up your VNAV, and your VNAV is pretty cool. It's pretty interesting how it works. But the first thing you want to do always is you want to come here and you want to make sure that everything is, you know, you want to set up, make sure that it's tracking your position, sensor data, and I'm going to go back, fuel planning, same thing. There we go. So everything is set up by data instead of, like, if you unplug it, if you take that off, then you can change things, right? I'm going to show you an example of what I'm trying to say. So say you are on the trip planning, right? And then you take off position, then you can from here set up from and to, right? So if you want to find out, I don't know, say from MSY instead of from the place that you're at, you can just do that, right? And instead of using the sensor data, so the data that the GPS is getting from your airplane, you can turn that off. And then the same thing, then you can set up what ground speed, you can modify more things on here, or just you can tap that, you can tap this, and you see where now it gives you more and more information easier. You can still customize a couple of things like your departure time and date, and then from point to point, or just a flight plan. I'm always going to keep it point to point pretty much. Going back, okay, so same thing goes for flight planning. I can just tap on it and it will tell me information from where I am to Houston. It will tell me how much fuel I have on board, the fuel flow, ground speed, and it's going to calculate all of that for me, and it's going to tell me how much fuel I have to, you know, to get there. What's cool about this is on your map, your GPS is going to show a ring, right? And the ring is going to extend or not depending on how much fuel you're using, and it's going to give you an idea of the distance, right? So it's kind of like a visual representation of how much fuel you have left on your airplane, and you can just look at it right from your map. So like I said, the utilities, it's going to be a lot of fun for you to play with, but those are the ones that I use the most, trip planning. Okay, so your VNAV is another one that you're going to play with a lot, and you'll be able to actually set up your waypoints up here through your flight plan, and then you can say like what altitude you want to hit it at. So say that just for me to give you an example, say that we're flying back from Houston to Lakefront, and then Harvey is my last waypoint. I can just set up Harvey here, and then I can say, well, let me be at Harvey, I want to be at about 3,000 feet. I can set 3,000 feet on here, and then down here it's going to tell me my rate of, it's going to tell me my rate of descent on here, and it's going to also tell me in time. Now, if you have a on your airplane, if you have a VNAV button on your autopilot, it's going to start descending with it. If you don't, then this is something you manually have to set to get to it. Okay guys, so I have now reset everything back to nothing, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you over a flight plan setup, and from Houston to Dallas, right? There's going to be departure procedures, there's going to be arrivals, and so on and so forth, right? So well, first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to flight plan. We're going to hit Houston, load procedures, departures, And you know, I am horrible. Wait, not what I want. I am horrible at pronouncing some of these things, but we're looking for Whiskey Yankee Lima Sierra November 7. So here we go. Tap on that. And which runway am I in? Seem to be on runway 4. So, and then from there we're gonna go to this one right here. Gonna hit low departure. There we go. I'm gonna check all of it out, make sure that it's all set. Now, it actually set up my next waypoint, which would have been the Mike Alpha Juliet Kilo Kilo. But then now I'm gonna go ahead and set up a procedure. I'm gonna set it up a different way. I'm gonna go to procedures. I'm going to do arrival. I'm gonna switch that to Dallas. Remember when I told you there's many different ways of doing it? So Dallas, and I'm looking for the Redden 4. So tap and hold. And there we go. And we're looking for the same one right here, MAJKK. I'm gonna do that. And then, well, in this case, let's go ahead and set up a runway. Oh, there's no option. Sometimes it will say the runway option for you to pick, but it's just gonna stay with the all. So load arrival. And guess what? Now we have everything here set up for us, including the arrival airport. And so now I'm gonna go to my map. I'm gonna zoom out because I want to visually inspect that everything looks like I want it. And you see those arrows telling me how I'm gonna fly. Well, in this case, it's gonna be vectors. And then from there, take vectors to the next waypoint. And you see how very nicely it's set it for me. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and take off, and I'm gonna show you once I'm in the air. Okay, so now that we are flying, I wanted to show you a couple of differences of how you set up the screen, right? So I'm gonna go back to menu, and the first one is terrain. Now, we're not gonna have much to show because we should be clear of a lot of the terrains, but should we have mountains that we're gonna show in here. Now, going back to menu, I'm gonna bring this up a little bit. Actually, I'm gonna bring it all the way up so you see the difference of how much information it can show in there, and how sometimes it just might be a really good idea to maybe bring that down if you just want to concentrate on certain things. And like I said, there's different levels of how much you get to see in there. And every time you get to see a little less and less depending of also your zoom level, right? And then all the way to the bottom where practically just gonna see your flight plan. And then these things, I can still see airways. You can disable that depending on the zoom level through going into your menu and then map setup. You can change all of that however you want to. See, you can change it all right here, right? Very nice and easy. So you guys remember when we were taking off, you had those arrows and then it said vectors, right? So one thing that I did is actually hit the direct to line, and I just hit the direct to my first waypoint there. Now I want to go back to my flight plan, and then let's look at something, right? This right here, this is the altitude that I'm planning on being there, right? I can just very easily click on here and then set the altitude that I want to be there. So I'm just gonna say, I don't know, 3,000 feet. Just for the purpose of demonstration, right? And then I can just hit the save. And I'm gonna show you the difference between the direct, VNAV direct, and then the save. So now I have it on there, right? I'm gonna go back here, utilities, VNAV. So see, now I have all of these things right here, and as we get closer to it, it's gonna start telling me which is the target descent rate, and then the angles and all of that, right? Now, or I can just come here to flight plan, right? I'm gonna come here, and I'm gonna skip everything I am doing. I'm gonna select that. I'm gonna hit the activate, And now it's gonna start turning my airplane towards that waypoint, and you can see how it's skipping the flight plan, is going directly to it, right? So I'm gonna come back, flight plan. Okay, so I set that altitude 3000. There you go. So it's set right there, right? It's set at 3,000 feet. I can say, well, you know what? Let me just descend, I don't know, 200 feet per minute. Oh, I'll tell you what, let's be more at 1,000 feet per minute. And then see, time to top of descent. So it's gonna tell me when is that I need to start descending. And if I go back to my map, I'm not sure if we're too far out to see it or anything, but we will see at some point the top of descent. There it is, TOD, top of descent symbol. And it's going to tell me, pretty much it's just telling me when do I need to start descending in order to hit that waypoint at that altitude. Now, something is that you can actually change on here. So say that we go to menu and user field, I'm gonna click here, data, and then I can go and look for, okay, time to top of descent, right? And this is one that you can click on here, and it's telling me that at 1 hour and about 38 minutes, it's gonna, I need to start descending. But then there's also one that I couldn't find, and I'm not gonna, you know, bore you going through it, trying to find it. But there's another option in here that is gonna tell me what is the actual descent rate that I need to be at, right? And you know, it's right now we already know that whenever that hits 0, then I just need to set my autopilot to be at 1,000 feet per minute, and it's gonna get me there. Or just say that you know, I have a bunch of them set up, flight plans as on the flight plan. You know, I have this 9,000, I have all of them set up on here. Then it's just gonna change, and it's gonna tell me, well, descend at 300 feet per minute in order to get there. And you can just set that up or in here. Now, this is something else I want to show you. You see those 2 rings? That is your fuel, how much fuel remaining you have. Now, I can very easily show you how those rings change if I push back on my throttle. See, and it tells me time too. So I'm gonna stop my descent there. Now I can zoom out, and where something seemed like, where it seemed like you know, it wasn't, I didn't have enough fuel to get to it, to Dallas. Now it shows that I have more than enough. Or I can just come back here to utilities, fuel planning. See, and it tells me my fuel on board, the fuel flow. It's gonna look at my ground speed, and then it's gonna tell me even more information about fuel, right? How much fuel do I need when I get to Dallas? How much fuel should I have? And how much fuel reserve do I have? But this is all possible, or very easy, if you just have these 2 options set up. If not, you're gonna have to enter them manually, which is good if you wanna do some planning. But if you're already flying, or if you want to let the GTN do it all for you, you just tap on that. And then same thing here, right? Time to arrival, it's going to show you everything here as long as you have the sensor and the position all turned on. So I'm going to go back here to a flight plan. I'm going to tap on here, and I'm going to hit remove arrival. You see how easy it is to just edit the flight plan, right? I'm going to click here, remove departure, and now it's just a straight flight plan from Houston to Dallas. Very, very, very easy. Now, something I wanted to show you guys is this. So I'm gonna go back here. I'm gonna go to procedures. I'm gonna hit approach, and I'm just gonna go ahead and line up for, or set up for the approach of the ILS 31 left, right? So I'm just gonna hit the load. And now what's cool is, now you can see up here, my nav just got updated with the nav frequency for that airport. It's still on standby. For me to activate it, I would have to switch it by tapping on the active one. And you see how easy that is, right? And I'm gonna switch it back down. Something else that matters is you're able to see the identifier for that for that approach, so you don't have to listen to the Morse code or have to you know, look at your charts a million times. So I wanted to show you guys really quickly how the chart looks on your screen, and this is very useful whether you want to use it or not. You can just come here to the menu and just turn that off, right? And now you can see the approach. I have a mess of things going on in here, but I just wanted to show you the charts, how they look. But see, there you go. So now you can actually put the approach into the map and be able to fly it, just like if you had your charts printed out and you were kind of using your finger or your pen to navigate or something. Clearly the airplane is going in circles, but I just wanted to show you again what that feature looked like. Well, thank you so much guys for watching the video. I know it was a heck of a lot of fun to make it, but I really do hope that it was informative and helpful to you, and that if you're using the GTN series, that you feel a little bit more comfortable now using it. If you do have any questions, as always, just email me at ceo@vatstar.com. Just comment on here. If I don't know the answer to something, I promise you I'm going to go ahead and forward it to one of our instructors or the RealSimGear crew or even the RealityXP crew. It doesn't matter. But just send your questions in. I'll make sure to get them answered. I just want to say a huge thank you to the RealSimGear crew for being so supportive of us making these videos and sending us the GTN750 for us to make it, and also the 530 and the 430, which we gave away not too long ago. Very, very, very thankful for that. It makes it a heck of a lot easier. These videos are not done at all. My next move is going to be switching the GTN from here onto the actual cockpit, moving the GSN 430 down, so then I can actually start making videos on how to use them on actual flights and different procedures, different kinds of environments and everything. So they're going to be a little bit more entertaining, a little bit more hands-on. And you know, typically I do those like live streams so you guys can ask your questions, and it's just going to be so much fun. But I gotta get on adapting it onto that. But yeah, if you guys haven't checked them out, it's RealSimGear.com. They sell all kinds of avionics for cockpit setups like the G1000, the 750, so much. And I would tell you, I would recommend their equipment any day of the week. It is inexpensive compared to some of the other ones that I don't even compare to them. But do check them out, and make sure you do subscribe to our YouTube channel, so whenever we come up with more videos and the live streams and all that, you are notified whenever that's happening. But so yeah, on to the next one, and it's gonna be fun. See you.